Hi, my name is Vanessa van Dijk, and in today's video we are looking into when to use an eye serum in a skincare routine. Now, generally speaking, when coming up with a skincare routine and you have several products, it can be quite confusing to put them in the right order of application. And therefore there's a saying, well, a layer from the thinnest to the thickest texture, or let's call it from the lightest to the heaviest texture. This way you're making sure that the products that have a thinner texture can properly absorb into the skin before you're layering heavier treatments or even creams on top of it. And so then you're making sure that it feels comfortable on the skin, the products can properly absorb into the skin, and you won't come across any uncomfortable feelings or even pilling. Now, the same would apply with your eye serum. So if your eye serum has a much thinner texture than certain treatments that you want to include, use it beforehand. If your eye serum has a thicker texture than certain treatments, use it afterwards. This is just a general guide. However, what if your eye serum has a very similar texture to your specific treatments? What are you going to do? Well, then there's another point that you can keep in mind, and this is, what is the biggest concern that you want to improve the most? So let's say, just as a brief example, your major concern with the eye serum that you want to use is to improve your dark circles. This is your biggest concern. And then the rest, when it comes to maybe hydration or regulating your oiliness or brightening the skin, this is second place. Well, in that specific case, if the texture is quite similar, you would use your eye serum at first so that it is the closest to the skin and can already really work for your most important concern, and then you're going to move on to other treatments afterwards. So there are two general guides that you can keep in mind. Now, based on that, I have prepared for you example morning and evening skincare routine so that you can see the order of application and that you can see visually when you can exchange the steps depending on the products that you may have. And if you find example skincare routines helpful and you want to even download them and maybe save them to your device, well, you can find the link under this video in the description box down below. Click on the link and then it will bring you to the website where I'm uploading my PowerPoint slides, and there you can either just watch it online or save them to your device. Now, I immediately want to get right into the PowerPoint slides so I can break it down. So let's get started with the morning skincare routine. So here you can see an example. It says right here, morning skincare routine. You can see the different steps, what's important to do, what's optional. I have picked certain products to give you the example, what it is, what I've just picked, and even a general guide below specifically to the products that I have picked. So that if you want to go with some of the treatments or you may have them at home, that you have a general idea in mind. So let's get started with the focus of the eye serum. So in this example, I went with the ordinary caffeine solution. That one is great for puffiness and dark circles. Now, on the left, you can see, on my left, you can see that I've also picked hydrating toners. So this is an optional step. You do not have to include it, but you can. With the hydrating toners, in my example, those have a much thinner texture than the caffeine solution. So in this case, you would cleanse your face, then use the toner if it has a thinner texture, and then you're moving on to the eye serum, and then your specific treatments, again, an optional step if you want to include them, and then follow on with your sun protection. Now, the treatments that I have picked with the essence, for example, it has a bit more of a thicker texture than a caffeine solution. With the ordinary water-based serums, hyaluronic acid and niacinamide, they have a very similar texture to the caffeine solution. So in this specific case, if your dark circles and puffiness is the biggest concern, if you have serums that have a very similar texture, well, then you would use your eye serum at first and then follow on with your face treatments. If you have now an eye serum that has a much thinner texture, then your face treatments, again, the steps won't change. You're going to use your eye serum at first and then move on to your treatments. Now, what if you have an eye serum that has a thicker texture than your treatments? Well, then you're going to do it the other way around. You're starting off with your cleansing steps and the toner, and then you're moving on to your specific face treatments, and then apply your eye serum, and then follow on with the sun protection. Now, with this example, I went with Niot or even Vichy's eye serums. Those have a bit more of a thicker, or let's call it oilier texture than the example face treatments that I have picked, and even the hydrating toners. So in that specific case, you're going to use it after your toner and essence or serums step and then apply it before your sunscreen, so that again you would go from the thinnest to the thickest texture. Now, when looking into an evening skincare routine, it can look pretty much the same. You can work with a toner and exfoliant, as I have an example right here. I just exchanged the cleanser to gentle cleanser. If you want to work with an exfoliant, then again, as my first example, the caffeine solution, you would then use it after your cleansing step, as well as your toner and exfoliating acid step. If the toner and exfoliant that you're using has a lighter texture than, in this case, the ordinary caffeine solution. And then you would move on to your face treatments and then your moisturizer if you should feel the need. Now again, the same would apply if you're going to do a double cleanse. The only thing that's going to change is that if you want to do a double cleanse, in case you cannot properly remove your sunscreen and makeup from the skin throughout the day, like if your usual cleanser isn't able to do this properly, you can do a double cleanse using your micellar water at first, then your normal cleanser, and then you're moving on to your toner, maybe exfoliant, then your eye serum that has a lighter texture, maybe similar texture to your treatments, and then move on to your treatments and moisturizer as your last step if you should feel the need. And so again, if you're going to now exchange it and you may have a heavier eye serum, the same thing applies. You're going to change your face treatment step with your eye serum. So you're going to use your face treatment at first and then your eye serum, and then move on to your moisturizer. So in this case, you would use the eye serum before applying your moisturizer if you're going to use one. And again, the same thing would occur if you're doing a double cleanse with this specific order of application. It won't change in this specific case. So this is like an overall general guide, an example that I've just picked and came up with so that you can see the order of application visually. Now still there may also be a bit of confusion, like what if you may have a toner or an exfoliant that has a thicker texture than your eye serum, and depending on your specific concern, well then again you may come across that point where you need to use your eye serum before applying your thicker, heavier toner or maybe exfoliant. Like this of course depends on the products that you have at home. I've went with some of the famous products that I know that most of my people who are watching my videos and even are subscribed to my channel may have at home. Therefore I picked those examples. But of course, if you have a completely different eye serum, you're using completely different face treatments, maybe toners and exfoliating acids, the order can change. All what I want to teach you in this specific video is that you can go with that overall general guide to layer from the thinnest to the thickest texture. And by the way, usually when working with exfoliating acids, most commonly with AHA exfoliating acids, it does say on the back of the packaging to not use it on the eye contour. So if you're not using your exfoliant on the eye contour because it can be quite irritating on such a sensitive area, you still could use your eye serum before applying your exfoliating acid, because you're not going to use your exfoliant on that specific part. And so if that isn't the case, you're not using your exfoliant right here, and this is also one of your biggest concerns, well, after your cleansing step, you could also go ahead and immediately apply your eye serum right here and then continue with the rest of your skincare routine if you're not going to layer it on top of your eye contour. Also, make sure that depending on the eye serum that you have, that you're always going to read on the back of the packaging if you can use it daily in the morning as well as evening, or if you only should use it in the evening, and if you can use it only on the eye contour, or if you can use it around the entire eye area, maybe even on your eyelids. So please make sure that you are going to properly read the directions on where you can place the eye serum. And then as a general guide, go with 1 to 2 drops, or maybe about half a pump to 1 pump, and then evenly apply it all over, and then give it a moment to absorb into the skin before continuing with the next step. So those are the general parts that I do want to include in this specific video so that you have an idea of how you can get started. Now this is what I wanted to share with you on how you can also basically include your eye serum in your skincare routine. I do hope that you find it helpful. Again, you will find the PowerPoint slides in the description box down below. If you now want to see more about application videos so that you can also see this visually, well, you will find the videos at the end of this video. so that you can keep on watching and learn more about it. If you enjoyed this video, you find it helpful, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up as well as share it, and I will see you soon in the next one. Happy skincaring. Bye.